The Banshees of Inisherin. Inisherin, I don't know. When I first saw the title, I thought it said The Banshees of Irish. The Banshees of the Irish, and then it was like, The Banshees of Inisherin. I don't know. Okay, after that embarrassing reveal, The Banshees of Inisherin. It is a masterpiece of filmmaking, acting, and timeless storytelling, and I never want to watch it again. As someone who hasn't seen many other Martin McDonagh movies, actually, I don't think I've seen any other movie or even seen a play of his, but call me intrigued as I can see while watching this movie how he's been so successful and acclaimed over the years. But that doesn't mean I'm going to watch it if they're all as bleak as this film. This is a movie that I really didn't want to go see, and every time I keep telling myself no, I kept hearing more and more people praise it as one, if not the best film of the year. I had plans to almost go see it in theaters last week with a friend until something else came up, being busy with college at the end of the year, but luckily Disney Plus offered me Nights at the Museum Camera Rises Again that day to watch. Also, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. But with the year ending and now the film is on HBO Max, I and my father watched the film, and I bring this up because I am so glad I wasn't alone watching this. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I'm not the most into bleak stories, or well, okay, bleak stories is like a vague thing to say, like, what's wrong with a story getting a little depressing at times, but, what's the best way to phrase this? It's just movies that, while if done well, can be profound or genius. I just don't like being in a bummer mood throughout the movie, or at least make me feel empty, like, in a bad way, like, I don't know. But even if I can see why and agree on it being a masterpiece, I think after seeing Del Toro's Pinocchio, I come to realize my favorite kinds of films are the ones leaving me with the feeling of hope. Not to say a happy ending, but in between of good or bad. That makes me feel like hope is strong or whatever. Like, there's still something to say that I saw something sad and depressing, but I'm still left with hope for things to turn out better. And that's just a personal preference. But saying that, I am for sure not going to watch Tar now. But in this movie's case, where do I begin? I mentioned being glad I watched this film with someone else because this movie is about loneliness and the worst that can come from it. Set in 1923 Ireland, Padraic, played by Colin Farrell, is a nice if dim guy who loves his simple lifestyle, and best friend Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, only for Colm to tell Padraic he no longer wants to be friends with him anymore, despite Padraic not doing anything really wrong, but Colm just tells him he doesn't like him no more. Due to some reasons that are unclear, some are obvious, but also confusing, Padraic tries to understand why their friendship is suddenly disintegrating, but questions who he himself is in the process on this small island, as changes coming for both him and Colm, both making extreme choices as actions as the movie goes on, with neither the same at the end as the beginning of the film. The movie is a black tragicomedy, according to online, which isn't something I really thought of being a genre. Like, there is comedy combined with tragedy, but I didn't realize specifically that combined was a thing. But in terms of the movie's black humor, I honestly didn't think it was that funny. I have like one huge laugh when Patrick gets drunk to yell at Colm, and Colm's reaction to it made me burst out laughing, but any other joke was pretty hit or miss, honestly. What this movie does well is with its story, characters, and filmmaking in so many ways. But let's start with the performances. Colin Farrell is getting the most praise from this film, and rightfully so, since he's both the main character, but his character is also the most complex in the film, and it's impressive how he pulls it off, with the other actors doing also a fantastic job. I mean, Brendan Gleeson is both unpredictable and pathetic and intriguing, and Barry Keoghan and Kerry Condon both nailed their roles. Speaking of unpredictability, I had no idea where most of this movie was actually going. Like, there was a scene where after Gleeson tells Farrell not to speak to him anymore, Gleeson forces Farrell to give him a ride without neither talking to each other, and both me and my father looked at each other at the same time, spooked and confused, like, where is this going? The movie's story is about loneliness, as I said, and where Farrell's character is someone who can't stand being alone, they can't tell the difference between being a decent person or being too clingy to respect another person's wishes. Sometimes, while on Gleeson's side, I can be on his. I understand where he's coming from, because despite not having the same amount of screen time, Gleeson is someone who wants to be left alone, but it comes off rude, absurd, and brash when getting across what he wants, and also unstable proving it. Because, like, what he does to push the situation to the extreme really makes it feel gruesome when you question if he'll actually do it or not. Granted, for how bleak the movie was, I did feel like he would. Now, the movie's visuals and pacing are expertly shown with Farrell's character being shown outside from a window, constantly running into Gleeson on a small island, not by choice, with Gleeson inside your usual pub being happy with or without him, or, with someone else, or Farrell letting more and more animals inside his house, or how he's told he might not be the nice guy he thought he was by Keoghan's character, really getting him to question about who he's becoming. But what makes this work is that neither side is really on the right side. Farrell has every right for being angry at how Gleeson treats him, but for how Gleeson treats him, why would Farrell want to be his friend anymore still? I'm sorry for saying the actors' real last names, it's just easier for me to pronounce. There are hints of them having a believable friendship before their feud, so I'm not questioning this throughout the movie, but you want to know how this movie made me feel? Okay, how did it make me feel? Well, without spoiling the ending of the film, and how different some, if not most of the characters in the film change throughout, the ending is such a bummer, it did not leave me in a good mood. But in comparison where Halloween Kills pissed me off more for how empty it left me by the end, this film changed the way I think about myself. How sometimes I would give anything not to be lonely, but also that desire to be lonely at the same time, and I hope to God I would never be as clingy as Padraic is in this film. The only real problem I have with this film is the black comedy. And I've always been mixed on black comedy about being the right balance of being mean-spirited, just dark for the sake of being dark, and legitimately funny. And I think the story, drama, and performances are magnificent though, so that easily outweighs it. It's just the black comedy for the first act of the movie really did nothing for me. Like, obviously by the third act, when everything's serious, that just disappears. And that's on purpose. But not bringing the film down at the beginning, that's also a good thing. But nothing in the film made me feel good either. So, which obviously that's my own personal problem. I'm like, of course I'm not supposed to feel good about this, or about myself watching the movie. I'm just saying, this movie is great at what it does, but I never want to watch it again because of that. It's just something like The Lighthouse. It's also bleak, but it's also beautiful, mysterious, and psychological. Watching it several times, I just also think of new ways to see it, and the characters are likable, and also you hate them at the same time, but there's a mix to it that makes it leave an intriguing impact. And if a movie wants to be funny, it can be funny, but it's also scary when it wants to be, and God, can it be scary. Here, it's a personal issue where I don't think I would rewatch it and think of it from a different perspective, because I did go in thinking, yeah, I'm on both sides, which that should be an accomplishment in itself. It's just, I don't know, I guess it's not something I want to rewatch ever. So, take that as a criticism. I mean, would I recommend it to people to see at least once? Sure. I mean, if they are willing to keep in mind how much of a bummer this movie is. Oh, I also remember one other big problem I had. Okay, so there is a build-up throughout the movie for something, and when I saw the prop they used for this build-up, my first immediate reaction was, okay, that's also funny, because it looked fake. I don't know, like, in some shots it did come off gruesome, but I could just tell that was a fake prop. And anyway, but you know what? Thanks to the dialogue, performances, great chemistry, with it probably going to win Best Picture at the Oscars, because it's probably that kind of movie that would win Best Picture. I am just thankful that I watched it at home and used the subtitles on HBO Max. And you know what? Yeah, that's pretty much about it. I'm just glad to be done with it. I give The Banshees of Inisherin a 9 out of 10.